Wednesday morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this cold Wednesday morning. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you, best way to start your day, cup of coffee in one hand, copy of the Word of God in the other hand, sitting in front of a nice toasty fire. That would be great, wouldn't it? Hope that you take advantage of those opportunities. Don't forget, today's day 4 of our week of prayer. We're praying for Matt and Gretchen Clay as they work with churches in North Africa to reach the lost there. Also, Fruit Cove Baptist Church and Aspire Church from Florida, who have partnerships there. Lift them up to the Lord, because God will use the prayers of His people, responding to the prayers of His people, using the people who are willing to go. All right, don't forget today, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Bible studies, men and ladies, 5 o'clock supper, 5:45 youth and children, 6 o'clock prayer meeting and Bible study. We are meeting in the Pat White classroom tonight, so the choir can have the sanctuary as they rehearse. All right, so join me right now in Romans chapter 7, and we're going to pick up in verse 7. Now, this is going to sound a little familiar to you because, as I said, Paul keeps coming back to this same theme, driving it home, hitting it hard, so that he can drive it deep into our hearts and in our brains, and we'll get this. Listen to what he says, starting verse 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Certainly not. On the contrary, I would not have known sin except through the law. For I would not have known covetousness unless the law had said, you shall not covet. But sin, taking opportunity by the commandment, produced in me all manner of evil desire, for apart from this law, sin was dead. And I'm going to pause there, okay? Because here's the thing. Paul has just finished telling us that, that the sin nature within us is what drives us to sin and causes us to do these things. And we know it's sin because of the law, so the law makes us guilty. But we've been delivered from the law because we have been made right with God through faith in Jesus Christ. And we're supposed to live for Him. Remember that? And so some have come up and said, well, if that's the case, then the sin is bad. The law is bad. It must be sin. And Paul says, no, the law is not sin. Our response to the law is sin. The law sets the boundaries so that we will stay away from it. It's kind of like electric fence. I remember when I was young, probably 7, 8 years old, had my first encounter with an electric fence. We were visiting my great uncle up in Kentucky, and on the side of his yard, there was a big steep drop off. I mean, it was down the mountain, and he had electric fence around it. I didn't know it was electric. I'd never seen an electric fence, never heard of an electric fence. And I walked over, and I wanted to get a better look, so I grabbed the wire and looked over. I learned what electric fences do. That's what the law does. It's a boundary. It shocks us to cause us to step back so that we will not go beyond that point, because going beyond that point is death. It's death. And so we have to be aware of that. So God provides that warning for us, and it shows us what our sin nature really is. And that's what Paul says. I would not have known what sin was except for the law. He says, how would I know what covetousness is? That it was wrong unless it says you shall not covet. And that's his point here. But look at verse 8 again. He says, sin, taking opportunity by the commandment, produced in me all manner of evil desire. Remember what I said yesterday? Excuse me. There is within us this rebellious streak, the sin nature that pushes the envelope that says, hey, look, you can't tell me what to do. And so those things that are forbidden, those things that are taboo, we are drawn to, that sin nature within us. And that's what Paul is talking about here. Because the law is there, it shows me, hey, there's something out there. And our sin nature says there's pleasure in that. And so I want to try that. And that's the battle that sets up inside of us, that sin nature versus the holy nature of God that He has implanted with us. But look at what he says here. He says, for apart from the law, sin was dead. Okay? In other words, without the law, we would not have any idea what sin was, that there was a problem of any kind. But here's the kicker. This is the good part. Verse 9, I was alive once without the law, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. And the commandment, which was to bring life, I found to bring death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it killed me. Therefore the law was holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good. Do you see it? Paul's saying here, it's all good. It's good because there's a reason for the law. The reason is so that we will not die, and we will recognize that there is an escape from that sin. We'll talk about this some more tomorrow. But right now, think about this. Think about this. What are those things that you do battle with every day? Those things that are out there that says, hey, I want to try that. And you know it's wrong, but you do it anyway. Think about that, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Be blessed.